We are discussing immigration on the phone, and it must be urgently curbed to stop the population hitting 70 million and causing serious harm to society. Well, this is what an alliance of leading public figures has demanded. One of those public figures is Lord Carey, the former Archbishop of Canterbury. Good morning.
Good morning, Nicky. Nice to be on the programme.
Yes, and a Happy New Year to you.
Thank you very much indeed. Greetings from a very snowy West Berkshire.
Right, as is much of the country this morning, but not all of it. Now, Lord Carey, it has been suggested that you're saying that ultimately there should be no real discrimination in immigration policy, but priority should be given to those with Christian beliefs. Is that right?
Not entirely, Nicky. What I'm concerned about is that we should give priority to all those who are committed to our democratic values, a commitment to parliamentary democracy, an understanding of our history, and certainly anyone who comes into our country must be committed to learning the English language. Now, it may be as a result of that those who really come from Christian nations or formerly Christian may be regarded as priority, but I wouldn't want to put that. I'm saying that the values that matter, not beliefs.
I see. So because we want people with certain values, it's more likely that they will come from Christian countries.
Exactly. That is the case. We would take countries like Poland, for example. But having said that, we welcome immigration. We welcome inclusion in our country. We know what we gain from other nations, and not only in terms of palate, but in terms of their commitment to IT and so on. I mean, they are helping to make this country more prosperous. The focus, though, is on limiting the numbers. I mean, the statistics indicate if we carry on the rate we are, our country is going to be in deep trouble, and this is going to foster social unrest. It's going to play into the hands of BNP. If you take areas like Dagenham, Essex, where I grew up, and it's very clear that people are very worried about this.
And why do you think it is that it's more likely that those coming from Christian countries will share our values of democracy and freedom of thought and freedom of speech? Why is that the case? I mean, this comes to the nub of the issue, what some people are worried about, which is what some have phrased the Islamification of certain parts of our country.
Yes, exactly. And I wouldn't want to focus simply on Muslim communities because, as I say, our country has always had a very strong commitment to inclusion and welcoming the stranger in our midst, and that's very much a Christian idea and Jewish idea as well. No, the focus must surely be on sharing our values. Otherwise, our country will be destabilized and we end up with communities and ghettos, and no one really wants that. If there's a priority going to be given, it's going to be focused on values and espousal to democratic values, and that is where I want to put the focus. If then it means that certain groups that come from a certain background are given priority, then it's not for me to decide that. It's for those who are in charge of the policy and working out on a daily basis.
Well, why isn't there not more success then in this country for people coming here and espousing the traditional values of this country, if indeed that is what in America it's slightly different. People seem to within a generation people seem to buy into it. But
yes, they do. I think that's the point. They do eventually buy into it, maybe a second generation. But at the moment, we're going through a period of huge turbulence because inevitably what happens here in terms of our domestic policies are influenced by international policies as well. What is happening in Palestine, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, places like that, inevitably, because new people are torn between two loyalties, a loyalty to the old country, a loyalty to the new country, and we're living in a world which can easily be destabilized by what is happening in your former homeland.
Are you worried? Be honest with us. If the population of this country reaches 70 million, are you worried that we will, in time, become less and less and less of a Christian country?
Yes, I am worried about that, but I mean that is not where I want to put the focus. What I worry about is if we reach that number, and I think we will, because I don't see any great energy on any political party to really take this as seriously as we want, and that's why we put this declaration out. So the worry is there. What I'm not worried about, Nicky, as a Christian, the future is God's anyway, so I can trust him for that. But nevertheless, I worry about my grandchildren. I want this country to carry on being one that values the Christian heritage, but most of all values the democratic standards and all that this country has fought over. And it's been a battle when you think it's only been in the last 100 years that the average man or woman has received the vote. So it's been a tough struggle, and our values, therefore, are very important to us. We want other people to recognize that, to be committed to it as well.
How do we preserve the Christian heritage? How do we best preserve that, then, if you say that's what you want to do?
I think we need a tougher church. We Christians are very often so soft that we allow other people to walk over us, and we are not as tough in our what we want in expressing our beliefs, because we don't want to upset other people.
So we're too PC in a way.
Like that.
Are we too PC?
I do say we've got to be more outspoken. What I call for is a healthy debate, which you know all about, a debate on these things, so that we can do so without any rancor or anything like that, but simply to make sure that these concerns are heard. Otherwise, places like Dagenham and Barking and elsewhere, where you've got ordinary working class people seeing their jobs taken away from them, which they think is happening, and that may not be the case, but we want to be able to fight that kind of resentment, which is, I believe, building up already.
But the danger with saying which in a way you are, by default, it will be Christian immigration, because Christians tend to come from the countries which share our values, and we want people who share our values. What about Jewish people? What about Sikhs? What about Hindus? Yeah.
We've always had a very great commitment to Jewish people coming to this country, and I know the Jewish community here very well indeed. I think their commitment is amazing, and the same goes for other groups. Like you mentioned, Hindus and Sikhs. They have got a great history of settling down and integration, not assimilation. Muslim communities less so, but there are signs that this is happening, and we want to say to them that the focus is not on assimilation. We don't want you to be the same as us. We want you to retain your values and your faith, but you've got to be committed to what we stand for.
Thank you very much for coming on and setting